Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. And let me do a quick check here on a few things. Make sure we have audio. All right, good. How y'all doing? Hope you're doing well on this Saturday morning, and hope you're having a cup of coffee, and preferably out of a Cichlids and coffee mug. And oh yeah, okay. So let's take a look here and see who's on board. Salient Aquatics came in with a super chat right off the bat. Thank you so much, Salient. I can't promise you a tiger barb tank, but you certainly can keep asking if you. Oh boy. So James Green in the house, all right, and Chris G, Cat Sailor, and welcome to the chat. Salient Aquatics we've brought up already. Looks like what we got here, you're talking football, and we're going into the baseball playoffs, and so much competition for us YouTubers right now. And the Phillies had a nice comeback yesterday. That's a team my son was helping to develop their batters, and that worked out really well. Let's see here. Salient Aquatics completed a 2-week QT on new tiger barbs. Well, you know, Salient, if you remember a couple live streams ago, I talked about quarantine. I was always like minimum 1 month, and I don't medicate, and there was certain guidelines I was using. And then after my trip to Ireland and talking to some of the folks at the Seahorse Aquarium, one of which was a marine biologist, the standard there seemed to be, are they eating? Are they colored up? Do they look good? Are they behaving right? And, are they acting, the way they're supposed to be acting, right? Interacting and showing some signs of swagger. And that's pretty much what I look for now. So I might move a fish over after 2 weeks, but I might leave him for 2 months. In the tank behind me, I have a eye biter that if I had brought him over with the other fish, he probably would be really suffering right now, because he just wasn't ready. So I left him back. I left him alone. I fattened him up a little bit. I got him so that he was interacting more, and then I went ahead and moved him, and he's doing wonderful. He jumps right into the eating frenzy, and is doing great. So it again, it's one of those things where you have so many moving parts, right? It's a fluid situation, like I say all the time, right? You have to really just observe and use common sense and really look at it. Now, some people like to medicate in quarantine. I don't like to do that, but certainly the folks who import from around the world, like Corey, yes, absolutely. You've got to medicate. You don't know what's coming in. You don't know what kind of new strain of bacteria or parasite might be coming in. I don't do that necessarily, but it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. If you like to medicate during quarantine, that's certainly your call, and there's nothing wrong with it. Gabriel's Glass Boxes, love that name. Thank you. Glad you're here. And AGP, glad you're here, buddy. And Cichlid King is here. Yep, all hail. Oh, funny. So let's see here. Z-Zip in the house. Michael Loterno, good morning to you. And Michael Machos, good morning to you as well, my friend. And Hero in the house. Audio is good. Thank you for that, James Green. I appreciate that. And Erna. Hey, Erna. Glad you're here. And R. Baglio in the house. Very, very good. Hey, Joe. Window Liquor number 5. Good morning to you, Window Liquor. All right. Love these names. Let's go ahead and officially start this live stream. What do you say? If you like what's going on at this channel, please be sure to hit that sub button, the bell, and the thumbs up. Let YouTube know that something good's going on, and that will encourage YouTube to recommend the channel and get us up over 50,000 subs. That's the objective for 2022. Very, very cool. And you folks are really helping with that. And quick shout out to the Cichlid Shack, a sponsor of the channel. Use Shack Attack 10 for any food like Extreme or Piscine or any kind of food you like. New Life Spectrum, he carries them all at the Cichlid Shack. 10% off with Shack Attack 10. And if you buy fish and it's over $100, use Shack Attack 15 for a 15% discount. And James Largo will treat you right. Also, very quick here, we're going to do a little super chat game today. Any super chat over $10 that is in the continental United States, you will get a coffee mug. Doesn't have to be this one with the Oscars on it. It can pretty much be anything, really, any of the mugs I have there. So any super chat over $10, you will, if you are the biggest super chat over $10 today and you're in the U.S., you will get a coffee mug today. Just my way of saying thanks for the help. And a big shout out to the Patreon members. These are monthly supporters. Starts for as low as $3 a month, and the details are in the description. These are Patreon supporters. They are a bit of a financial foundation for the channel. They really help out a lot. Big shout out to them. And this will be the very last commercial, I promise. Visit my spring store for swag like t-shirts and mugs and hoodies, and also use the Amazon link when you visit Amazon. That helps the channel. Whether you buy things from my Amazon store or just go to Amazon in general, if you use that link, it actually gives the channel a very small percentage, but it doesn't change your prices. Your prices remain the same. So just some ways that you can help with the effort of continuing to get out content and all the expenses and things associated with that. So let's see here. We have a few things to talk about today. And let me bring this up real quick. So what I have going on right now is I have, and as I mentioned in the banner, in the little thumbnail for this video, they call that little first picture that you see when you're looking at a YouTube video, they call it the thumbnail. So that thumbnail showed an empty 55-gallon, which is right in front of me, and I'm just wondering what to do with it. I want to get your feedback on whether I should continue with the species with the types rather of fish that I have right now, or is it time to branch into something different? The 55 being aragonite and crushed coral in there might be more conducive to Malawi fish, Lake Malawi fish. You can see it. See if I can turn it. There it is, fully cycled and ready for life. Actually, I'm sorry. That's the one I'm talking about right there. And it is a seasoned and fully cycled tank. I'm thinking about putting some more African cichlids in it that I can then bring over to the 300. Maybe a big spot. Maybe some fish that you might recommend, if you have some recommendations of some cichlids that you think would go well in the 300 with the mix that I have. I talked to James about the possibility of a Starry Night or possibly a some placidochromis, but he felt that those fish would perhaps be overwhelmed by the kind of fish that I have currently in the 300. Now I am considering taking this tank here, which is more set up for a South Central American with a plain sand substrate and wood. I'm thinking of maybe adding some plants to this tank and trying to grow out some discus that would then over time be shifted or moved over to the 90-gallon when I figure out where those fish in the 90-gallon would go. I have a 60-gallon acrylic that is sitting on its side here in the garage, and that could be the home for the discus. I mean, I'd rather put discus though in a seasoned, an older tank that has that has more just a better foundation, just more stability. Our Baglio, yeah, Star Sapphire. That's probably, I said Starry Night. I was in air. I meant Star Sapphire, and that was the one that Starry Night might be okay, but a Star Sapphire is the one that James mentioned might not work because of the size and aggression level of the fish that I have currently. On the other hand, a Starry Night gets very large. I think they can get to 10 inches. They're a big fish. They can get pretty big, and so just something to consider. Don't know what I'll do with that little red spotted Severum. Probably try him in the 90. But the other red spotted Severum was picking on him quite a bit. Maybe that would be different now that there's a red shoulder in there and other fish. Maybe he wouldn't go after him as much. Not sure how that would go. We'll take a short stop here at the 210. The 210 is going great, as you can see. Now, some folks have expressed concern because I have fish that are south and some that are central, and think that I should actually separate out this 210. And interestingly enough, are suggesting that fish like the Oscars would do better with fish like the Severums. So at some point, I might just take an inventory of this 210-gallon and separate out the South and the Central Americans, put them into separate tanks. And again, I've got that 60-gallon acrylic that gives me a direction that I could possibly go with that. I've got a 60-gallon, and I have what I think is about a 30-gallon glass rimless that is sitting on its side and currently working as a table. So I'll probably what I'll probably end up doing this back on camera here. What I'm also thinking about doing is I'm going to end off on that 8-gallon Horizon tank. That 8-gallon Horizon tank has never really gotten me excited. It's never been a tank that kind of pumped me up, and it was a little bit of trouble in the beginning. If you remember the way it was trapping fish in the filter, the suction from the back of the filter that comes with it, and the internal filter and the back wall, the suction there was so strong that fish would get up in there and get trapped. And I tried sponge around it. I tried some mesh. I tried a variety of things. Nothing really worked until I just pulled it out and dropped a small sponge filter in there, and with a bubbler, and that finally worked. But I'm not sure if I'm going to end up. I'll probably take those little cherry barbs, and throw them into the 29-gallon community tank, and then go ahead and tear down that 8-gallon. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it. I'll probably maybe give it away to somebody who wants a starter tank. Uh, Maybe it'll be the first tank for my granddaughter. I'm not sure. And then where that 8-gallon tank is, right here on the shelf to my right, what I'll do is maybe put that 30-gallon glass rimless, or maybe even try to get the 60-gallon in there. I'm just a little bit concerned about the countertop not being as stable, but I've got some support under it. So a lot of ideas, a lot of projects going through my head right now. And of course, I'm working some stuff out with James. I'm going to talk with him after this live stream about what he has in stock, and what direction we can go in. He was very much in favor of the African cichlids going into this tank behind me, into the 300, which I understand. And I'm now, in hindsight, I'm glad I did it, because I mean, they're just getting massive. I mean, you look at the size of these fish. I mean, you look at that Malawi trout. He's got to be pushing 10 inches. Okay, let's give him a little treat. That was a lot of krill. I mean, that was a lot of krill. And it's like, all that's left is the krill dust in like 10 seconds. So, at any rate, so let's take a look at the chat. Let's see what you have to say about this. I'd love to get your input on it, as always. And I'm going to cruise the chat here. Now, don't forget today's game. Biggest super chat over $10 in the U.S. gets a mug of your choice, any mug, at the Teespring store. Just a little way of saying thanks. So that's for the biggest super chat over $10 in the U.S. Has to be in the U.S. because of shipping. Shipping abroad has just gotten crazy. So let's take a look here at what you folks are talking about. What's up, Clarity? Clarity Aquatics in the house. By the way, this shirt is not at my website. This shirt is from Sean's Aquatic Life on Instagram, Sean's Aquatic Life. And hey, I thought this was a cichlid channel. Why is he wearing a Pleco t-shirt? He sent me a bunch of Plecos, and every month he's going to come out with a different kind of fish. So check him out. I really love the quality of the shirt, the colors, and I must have gotten about everybody in my family now has a Pleco shirt. So thank you, Sean, if you're out there. All right. Is that Al Turco? Let's see here. Now, by the way, there's been some discussion going back and forth on Instagram, and regarding these fish here. Get over there. Sorry about the lighting right on the tank, but I got no choice. But if you see there's those geos that are in there, and they were sold to me as Geophagus surimanensis. Geos from Suriname. And some very knowledgeable folks have chimed in and said that they're altophons or different kinds of geos, but that they're not surimanensis. That the surimanensis are just not really that available in the world at this point. And it's very rare when you see an actual surimanensis. So if you have any ideas, any thoughts or comments on what kind of a geo we're looking at here, just go ahead and comment in the chat, trying to figure out what the heck that geo is. I mean, at the end of the day, look, he's beautiful. I don't care. There's two of them in there. Beautiful pectoral fins. Beautiful coloration of the body. Spotted tail, and he's not. The Sirtimonensis is also referred to, I believe, as a red-striped earth eater. Red-striped earth eater, and is supposed to have stripes on the tail, according to, I think it was Tangled Up in Cichlids. I think was the gentleman on Instagram. So these, if that is the case, then these certainly are not Sirtimonensis. The little green terror in there is doing great. He's recently just started attacking his food with a lot more voraciousness, so he's actually coming around. Of course, that electric blue Ochart is just crazy cool. The red shoulder just disappears. Whenever I turn these lights on, the red shoulder severum goes into the back corner and hides. But he's getting pretty big now. He's got to be maybe 5 inches, maybe 6 inches from tip to tail. So if you're a Geophagus expert or have a lot of familiarity with what's actually getting into the country now, share your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Those are, there's an AC Hecali in there as well. And I'd love to get some more geos, some redhead tapajos. Love the way those fish look once they get, I mean, and there's such a large variety of geos that, and some of them are just absolutely beautiful. Some are very hard to get a hold of. So let's see here. I'm jumping into the chat. Justin B says a falsa bues. I don't even know what that is, Justin. I have no idea. I'm just a complete novice here when it comes to some fish. Sueños de Tanganica. I love that name. My high school senior class name was Los Soñadores. We had quite a Spanish influence in a downtown LA high school. Let's see here. Alto Maprologos. Calvus Black. Calvus are beautiful. Calvus are beautiful fish. Let's see. Hey, Jerry Martin in the house. And Jerry Martin survived Ian. Desert Fish Keeper says Central Americans like water a little cooler and harder than South Americans. And they mostly all aquarium bred with the same water, so it's no big deal. But you won't have to heat the central tank as high. Good to know. Good to know. I keep these tanks between 78 and 81 degrees. I try to. And all right, any comments or questions, go ahead and ask them now. We'll jump into them. Jerry Martin just got back from getting rocks for my new 180 from a place called Pebble Junction here in town. I tell you, that's the way to go. Go to the local quarry. They're a lot less expensive, and you know you're dealing with 20 to 50 cents a pound, as opposed to if you go to a local fish store, and almost hate to say it because I love supporting local fish stores, but you're going to pay probably between $3 and $7 a pound, depending on the rock. And if it's if you start to get into things like coral or holy rock, things like that, you're going to pay a fortune. So at any rate, yeah, visit the quarry, support your local quarry. Sailing Aquatics, I would line every wall with tanks and have a huge display tank like his 300 in the middle. Like it. Jerry Martin says, "Yep, Jerry, you have your Star Sapphire is amazing, and it's a real big boy." So Yeah, I can see how he'd be doing well. Joe, you're going to need a bigger garage. Joe, are you referring to the movie Jaws? We're going to need a bigger boat. Is that you remember that scene? It's a classic movie, but before a lot of your right before a lot of your time. I'll tell you, after watching Jaws, it was hard for me to go back to the beach for about a month or two. Billy D, agree, discus in an established tank for sure. That's what I'm thinking. And if you saw my last video about established tanks and patience and time, I mean, that really is a lesson that I think could only be learned the way I learned it, by actually taking things from scratch and monitoring them over a long period of time, and then coming to those conclusions where there is such a difference between a seasoned or mature tank and a tank that is brand new and is testing well, but yet its stability is sort of thin. The stability is thin and can be erratic, can actually change, whereas a older, more mature, more established tank is just going to be more rock solid. It's going to be harder to really change the parameters of that. And I made a comment about in that video. I made a comment about sponges, and then I had several comments under the video that misunderstood me. If you look at my tanks, if you're familiar with my tanks, I'm not a sponge filter guy, right? I don't have. Now, there's nothing wrong with sponge filters. And if you like them, hey, that's cool. There's a lot of plus points about them. Inexpensive, easy to work, easy to maintain, great home for beneficial bacteria. I mean, but the only sponge filter I have in this garage right now is the little mini sponge filter inside that 8-gallon Horizon tank. Otherwise, the use of sponges that I was talking about in that video is using them inside of things like hang-on backs, canisters, and sumps. That's where I was suggesting and advocating using sponges. They're great both for mechanical and, as it turns out, if what the owner of Swiss Tropicals, who happens to have a doctorate degree, is telling me is right, they are equivalent, if not superior, in their ability to house beneficial bacteria, and really require very little maintenance. Every now and then, you pull them out, give them a little squeeze, put them back in, and they're in some ways a very ideal filter media. But I wasn't suggesting that you go out and get a bunch of big sponges, right, with the bubblers in them. Now those definitely work well. And if you remember my trip over to the Cichlids Shack, and really every aquarium shop I visited, I have a whole playlist of local fish store videos. And if you go there, what you'll see over and over and over again are sponge filters that are being run by large, air, piston-driven, air pumps that are servicing, 50, 100 tanks, and one pump, and so they have their place in the hobby, and they do a great job. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I mean, can you imagine a place like the Cichlids Shack or Cunningham Cichlids or places like that with canister filters on every one of the tanks or hang-on backs on every? It would just be impractical. It'd be almost impossible to work on and clean. And so, yeah, sponge filters, they have their role, but I want to be real clear. I agree with some of the comments. I don't think they're very aesthetic. I don't think they're very aesthetic in an aquarium. Now, keep in mind that the person saying that has internal filters in his aquarium. The aquarium's behind me. I've got a Shisei, right, an Advanced Pro, one of the old ones that I got from Daniel over in Nevada. I've got some of these Expert Matic internals. I mean, these things they're not attractive. turn this thing around. Those of you that don't know what I'm talking about. You see that internal filter there in the corner? That's not an attractive filter. I've got another one in the other corner too. I mean, I try and disguise it with plants and wood, but it's probably the most attractive, just strictly from aesthetics, would be what I have here going on here. Sorry if you got that feedback. That's my microphone spinning around. But if you look at this tank here, what you have is like there's nothing in there. It's just fish, rocks, a big artificial plant. And at the very top, you've got some outputs. And in the top center, in the back, there's the intake for the, the overflow, the intake, or what they call the gyre, or the weir rather. There's a weir overflow back there. There's a big black pre-filter on an FX6. So when you look at this tank, you're not seeing a bunch of intakes and outputs. I mean, yeah, you see one intake if you look real close, but for the most part, if you want the cleanest possible look that you can get is going to be with a sump filter, right? And all right, so let's take a look at your comments, or I'll just keep rambling on. Chris G has a question. I bought a gold severum and a red shoulder. The gold severum is growing fast, but the red shoulder isn't growing much at all. Well, I'm having that problem right now, Chris, with a green tear. He's just recently changed his eating habit, so I'm hoping that he's going to come around. But take a look at when they eat and see if, let me change this mic here. And when he's eating, see if he's getting into the mix. You may have to start feeding on different sides of the tank to make sure that your red shoulder is getting the food. I'm kind of glad that's happening, and I'll tell you why. Your red shoulder is going to be a lot more aggressive than your red spotted, at least from my limited experience. The red shoulder, just like the greens and the turquoise, if you had to classify them in order, are going to be much more aggressive than the red spotted. So it's kind of good that the red spotted has a jump start, but it might be a matter of subdominance, the ability to get to the food. So keep an eye on that. When you feed him, watch him carefully, see how much he's getting. And you may have to switch from side to side. And if you haven't already done so, maybe introduce some things that red shoulder is going to be more interested in. Maybe some of the Omega cichlid treat, the cubes, the frozen cubes from Omega, maybe some bloodworms, things like that, and then be sure to offer them, drop them in a way that the red shoulder can get to them. There might be food. You might also have a genetic runt. I mean, sometimes, just like puppies, right? You get a runt in a litter. You might have a runt. That's entirely possible. So I would just keep an eye on them and see, first of all, the dominance, like where is he in the pecking order, and then just make some adjustments on how you're feeding him to make sure that he's able to get to it. Sean says altifrons on those. That seems to be the general consensus, the altifrons. I thought that their forehead didn't have as much of a slope as I normally see in the altifron, but then when I compare pictures, it's, yep, you may be very right. Thank you, Clarity. I appreciate that. Nathan T. recently subscribed. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that. And he is in love with his African cichlids. You know, over the years, I can tell you, Nathan, I've had it hasn't always been love. When I've gone through periods and they've been really hard on each other, like when I first got going in this fish room, and I had peacocks that were picking each other off, and it was a little bit of a love hate. I think I even had a video that said the title was Love Hate, and but now that things have settled out and the fish have more room and there's no one really picking on anybody, and when I say picking, I don't mind the occasional chase because you know that's normal, right? You'll see that with all types of cichlids. I'm talking about I'm going to single this fish out and I'm going to kill this fish, and that is what was going on. It might have been because they were in a 55, and a 55 for quarantine of 15, medium-sized African cichlids. That's a tight spot, and so they were trying to take out competition for territorial purposes. I get it. So a lot of it is on me. I got too many fish too fast, put them in too small an aquarium, and it was my love was waning a little bit. And I think there's a fellow up in the Boston area, My Wet Pets, I think it's called. My Wet Pets, I think is the name of his channel. And he had a beautiful cichlid tank. And one day I tuned in, and all the cichlids were gone. And he had a tank full of neons and rasboras. And he just said he got tired of sitting in front of the tank and getting stressed out about the antagonism, so he gave up entirely. Now, I kept culling. I kept pulling out jerks, what I call jerkfish, to arrive at this place. I had to keep pulling them out until I got rid of some beautiful fish, right? I got rid of some fish that were actually very pretty. Some of them, the dragon blood was gorgeous. The Phoenix OB, that was a beautiful fish. So I ended up getting rid of some beautiful fish, but it was worth it because I've ended up with a tank now where I've got, relative peace. And there's some fish in here that are kind of surprising, which makes you think about whether or not those plastidochromas would work. There's a bicolor 500 that's a runt, right? There's a Lethrinops in here. Briscoe gaster. There's some fish in here that you would normally, like this Lethrinops right here. Beautiful fish. Trying to bite my finger. You wouldn't think he would get along in this tank. Look right on top of him. You've got this, you've got Nimbochromis, Fusco, and the living stone eye. So, at any rate, it just goes to show that fish have a temperament. They have this temperament issue, and they're different from fish to fish. So you keep getting rid of the fish with the bad temperaments, and you end up with a relatively mellow tank. And it takes time, right? Patience, and it takes money. It's to end up at a cichlid tank that is not going to drive you insane. I can't put it any other way except it's going to take time and money. And by money, I mean you're going to need a big tank. You're going to need to replace a certain number of fish over time, right? Sell them or take them back to a fish store. And I'm not sure it would have even been possible if I hadn't had the help and sponsorship from the Cichlid Shack over in Phoenix, actually in Tempe, Arizona. So that's what got me through that. So. Okay, Justin, you can send the picture of that of that particular fish via Instagram, or you can email it to me at you can email it to ben.o.cichlid@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to look at it. GP putting in a new pump in a sump. Always a lot of fun when you're messing around, upgrading. I'm going to be doing an upgrade on the Betta duplex. For those of you who like Betta and watched my Betta Duplex video, I'm going to be getting some, spoiler alert, I will be putting out a video, but I'm going to be putting some tall plants, real plants, get rid of the plastic one, put some tall plants in there. I'm going to put a couple, she say, nano filters, take out the 500, the Shark Pro 500, take that one out and put a couple of the smaller, she says, in there, 2 of them, so I get equal amounts of filtration, but I don't want heavy circulation, right? I don't want the bettas to be blown around, so I went with 2 smaller, she says, and live plants, and we'll see how it comes out. The 2 betta that are in there right now are just gorgeous. They're beautiful, and I'm having a lot of fun with them. So watch for that video. I might even go today, or maybe tomorrow, either today or tomorrow. I'll go over to my local. I've got this wonderful local fish store, and the Aquatic Critter here in Nashville, and I'll go there and probably pick out some tall plants and a few other items, and then just start the process of making it look more and more aesthetic. And they're doing really well in there. I'm varying their food. I'm giving them Northfin Betta Bites, just a few little grains with each feeding. And I might skip a feeding once a week just to let them clean out, because I think what got Mr. Mustard, my original betta, was bloat. And I was just getting a little bit overzealous on the feeding. And I'm also feeding them some Sarah betta food that's specific for betta. And so I'm giving a little bit of variety. Alec Kumanov? Alec Kumanov. I hope I pronounced your name right. Below Water is Oliver Lucana's channel. He has 2 videos that cover Geophagus in exhaustive detail. Worth watching. I thank you for that tip. Below Water. I'm going to look that up. Below Water. Whip's World, hanging out at Aquashella. Is it in, I think Whip's World's in Chicago, right? Over in Chicago. Very, very cool. Jay Leah. Hi, Jay Leah. How are you? Forever, your name will be in one of my videos. So there you go. Thank you for searching. All right, let's see here. By the way, GP, is that new pump that you're adding? Couple questions. Does it have auto shutoff if the water level is low? Is it direct? Is it DC or AC? Just kind of curious. And is it adjustable? Does it have an adjustable flow? And can you control it with an app? There's just so much cool tech showing up in our hobby now. A lot of it coming from the saltwater community, of course. One of the reasons I like going to the things like Aquashella is being able to see the cutting edge stuff in the saltwater side, because you know that's going to be coming over to the freshwater pretty soon. So Mountaintop Puffer Keeper in the house. Love that name. Sean is keeping wild discus. Yeah, I heard that they can actually be a bit not quite as hardy as the ones that have been bred locally for, 100 generations. I'm cycling through the chat. Let's see what you folks have to say and ask. June Larimore? Am I pronouncing that right, June? I've had problems with my no fish tank for 2 or 3 months. Toxic ammonia. Wow. Vacuumed, changed, waited. Did you try? Did you try some beneficial bacteria in a bottle, or you can get things like Turbo Start? There's like ammonia that you can put in that will kind of get the cycle. But you gotta have something in there. Like this tank has been empty for about a week. If I let it go empty any longer, which is another reason I'm going over to my local fish store, I want to get something to throw in there because you've got to feed the bacteria. If you let it go too long, it would, and I know it can go longer than we think, like in a power outage. I've heard people talk about power outage lasting several days, and when they fired the filters back up, everything was fine. So it can last longer than we think, but it will, without something to eat in the form of waste ammonia, it will die off. So I wonder how long has it been empty, and have you had any kind of what I call place mark, fish in there to kind of keep it. Or some people will do what they call ghost feeding, right? Well, they'll drop some food in every other day just to ghost feed the tank so that there's something in there that could be rotting, right? Like if I threw a couple pieces of krill in that tank, that would probably be enough to kind of keep the beneficial bacteria going for a little bit longer. It wouldn't look good, but who cares? It's an empty tank. Henry Chavez, what is that elongated light blue fish over there? Are you talking about the, you might be talking about the trout? That guy? That the one you're asking about? Yeah, right there. Well, the Malawi trout, he will get to 15 inches. 15 inches. So if you like them, start saving for a 7 to 8 foot long tank. they turn into monsters. Very mellow. Very mellow. All things considered, they're pretty mellow. Jerry's Fishroom is going through a bad slump, and Jerry, we all go through slumps and fish loss. It seems like you've been getting beat up a bit recently. It reminds me a little bit of what I went through initially, and we're kind of back to new tanks that have a fragile stability, which I guess is a contradiction, but they're fragile. They have a fragile. Their parameters are fragile and can dip, and then they recover, but the dip was big enough to kill the fish, and then you go back and test the water and go, I don't get it. My water parameters are fine. Yeah, but they were not fine for a couple minutes, more than a couple minutes, right? But they were not fine maybe while you were at work, right? They dipped. Now it's testing out fine. It's maddening. It's maddening until you get that stability. So the only advice I can give you is to hang in there, to just keep at it. I know you're keeping your maintenance in. I know you're good about that. Don't overreact. In other words, over clean and over maintain. Sit back and let some things just take their course, and don't mess with it too much, because every time you mess with a tank, you stress it. You stress the fish out. So maybe just kind of let it roll for a little while, and don't let it get to you emotionally. Don't cave in, right? I'm a terrible fish keeper. I'm a loser. I'm not worthy. Don't get in any kind of self-talk nonsense. Just hang in there and do the best you can. Do more research, and eventually the tank's going to become stable. It'll become more and more rock solid. But yeah, putting discus. They're notoriously sensitive. We just get back on the horse like you've been doing. Gus Frazier, Predator Haps, great discussion. The hardest part of keeping Malawi cichlids is introducing new tank mates to an established tank. That is very, very difficult. And back in the day, if you look at some of my older videos, I used to always promote adding between 4 and 6 fish at a time, because I felt that would create enough confusion so that so that you turn the lights off, turn the lights on, and everybody's just sort of like, oh, I guess you've always been here, right? What I do now is I make sure the fish is ready to be added, like I did with that eye biter, right? Really made sure he had some swagger and was attacking his food and didn't have a sunken belly, right? He was fat and ready. And make sure these guys are really well fed. Turn the lights off, and I dropped them in, and then I observe very closely for a few hours, coming in and out of the fish room, making sure everything's good. I look at his fins and make sure he's being treated right. There he is, right on cue. You heard me talking about him. They're the funniest looking fish. They look like something out of a comic book. But not as funny as the gar. On cue. There he is. Look at that guy. The lips on that guy. Oh my God. All right. Henry Chavez comes in with a super chat. Thank you, Henry. I appreciate that. And is MX, are you in Mexico, Henry? Me encanta que me estás visitando de México si estás ahí. Estamos hablando 50 pesos. Gracias, amigo. Hi, Ben. What's the name of that elongated? Okay. So you've got that one. That one's the Malawi trout. I would have answered without paying, but you did get my attention. So. All right, I'm going through the chat as we move towards the hour. Gus Frazier, Predator Haps, Sean. You know, Sean, I try and introduce, and include veggie pellets or veggie flakes. There's some great vegetable products out there these days, and whether it's spirulina, things of that nature. But I do try and include some vegetables in all my fish, including my predators back here, because it's good for their digestion. Maybe skip a feeding every now and then, every week or two. I'll skip a feeding, and then I'll introduce some vegetable just to kind of clean out the intestinal tract, because bloat, very rare that you'll see a fish once they start to show the bloat. Very rare that they survive. The Autopharynx tetrastigma. Obviously, he's losing his hearing. He didn't hear me. Autopharynx tetrastigma. Where is he? There he is. Have him come over here. Come on, buddy. Anyway, this beautiful fish. That fish got so bloated, he looked like a porcupine. His scales were actually standing up. He was so bloated. It was horrible. His eyes were popped out a little bit, and he was a lot smaller. He was about 2/3 that size, maybe half. And I put him in a small tank with salt, about a tablespoon per 5 gallons. Fritz, some of the Fritz Salt Plus, I think it's called. He bounced back within 3 days. He was normal, and it was amazing. It was the 2 times that I've seen a good outcome with doing something to try and reverse a situation. Once with Colomeris using Fritz Marison Plus, and the other time with the salt, their Salt Plus product. So that was a bit of a miracle. Otherwise, I haven't seen fish come back from bloat Robert Egan comes in with $4.99. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. How about some humor? I left my water hose last night on a tank in my back room. Had to break out the mop and oh no. That's dark humor. That's I hate it. Been there, done that. Who hasn't had to mop up some water in their fish room? If you say you haven't, you're lying. I've heard some great lies. Over the years, people will make comments under my videos. And I was going to do a video on it, but you hate to kind of call people out. But I had one person who actually said that they had been keeping fish for like 20 years and that they'd never lost a fish. I had another person say that they had tanks, aquariums that were in windows and never had algae. Never had algae at all. And I just don't know what to say about that. I just don't know. Jerry comes in with a big super chat. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. Now that puts you, I believe, that puts you in the lead for the coffee mug. I mentioned this at the beginning of today's live stream that anyone who super chats over $10 and is in the U.S., if they have the biggest super chat, they will get a coffee mug. So Jerry, I think that that puts you in the lead. And it can be any mug at the Teespring site. So if you end up winning, if you do end up winning, just get over to the Teespring site. You know the drill, and just follow that link and take a picture, take a screenshot of the mug you want, and then just send it to me along with your full mailing address, which I might have on account, but send it anyway. And I will get a mug out to you. Thank you, Jerry. And, we support each other. During some of my, when I first got going with African cichlids, I remember reaching out to a couple fish keepers early on. IFG, Evan Alexander, John over at KG Tropicals during his first run before he took that long break and then came back. And I reached out to him about some issues, and they would chat back, and it just really made a big difference. And so, if we can support each other as a community, it just makes it a lot better for all of us. Henry, I wouldn't recommend mixing, Henry Chavez, I wouldn't recommend mixing Africans. I mean, there are people out there that do it, but it's one of those things in my mind that I think it'll work until it doesn't work, and then you'll have trouble. You'll either lose one of your South Central Americans, an Oscar, or you'll lose a trout. It might not end well, so I wouldn't suggest it. I wouldn't suggest it. Plus, I believe they need very, very different, very, very different parameters, right? Water parameters. Your Malawi is going to need a much higher pH. Vibes comes in with a super chat. Thank you, my friend. Fist bump. Love to you too, my friend. Vibes Aquatics. Moderator, friend, and supporter of the channel. Uh-oh. Vibes Aquatics just bumped Jerry. Jerry, you're just having really bad luck. Vibes just took the mug right out of your hand. Thank you, Vibes. Very, very cool. Thank you for that. Country Strong and Free. Boy, oh boy, love that name. And GP is thanking Vibes. We don't know who Vibes is. I think it's Vibes. But Vibes would be a cool name too, I think. Picking on you, GP. Love you, buddy. Z-Zip. What is this? Bernie Lee, I have a pistos. If they have babies, move the male to a different tank immediately. That's one of those great, one of those fish that where there's violence immediately after. Sort of like the bettas, I think, right? The betta, you're supposed to pull the female out right away because the male will kill the female, and it's just a whole lot of fun. You got to know what you're doing. GP, I think what this person was saying was that they happened to have got the tank to where phosphates were like at zero, like non-existent. Which, when you consider that every fish food in the world has phosphates, I don't know how that's entirely possible, but they said that their phosphate levels were so low that that's why they felt they had no algae. So it is within the realm of believability. I've just never seen anything anywhere near a window that didn't get at least a little bit, in the back corner or something. But this person was reporting zero. But at any rate, Hero, planning to purchase African cichlids online, 3 to 4 inches, all male. If I have a 37-gallon quarantine tank with HOB filter, will 10 cichlids fit in the 37-gallon? And how long should I quarantine? Well, I think 3 to 4 inches, you should be okay for a little while. You should be okay. And again, the quarantine is going to be something that you have to really observe and watch. And if the fish are looking vibrant, colorful, their fin display is nice, right? They're keeping those fins opened up, and no one's hiding somewhere in the corner with their fins all clamped. They're all eating well. They're attacking the food. Then bring them over, and that could take, like I said earlier, 2 weeks, 2 months. So just keep an eye on them. Certainly, if some fish is showing a sign. A sign that is indicative of something like a parasite or something like that, don't bring any fish over. I mean, treat that paracleanse, or hit the tank with something that will help to eliminate that before you consider bringing them over. Making sure you remove chemical filtration and charcoal from your filters before treating. And continue treating usually for a week or two after it disappears, just to make really sure, and then put your charcoal back in to remove the residual medication. Sean is saying, have a good weekend, Ben. Get some Savini Geos at the Critter. Yeah, let's see what they have. Every time I go to the Critter, they have different stuff. That's part of the fun of going, is that it's what they have. And of course, I'm always bugging them. Hey, do you mind if I film? I think they've gotten to know me already. I go, yeah. I told one guy last time I went there, I said, well, I have this YouTube channel. I go, oh, yeah, we know who you are. I'm like that little pesky kid that keeps showing up at the candy store, just can't quite reach the counter. Hey, is that a new kind of licorice? Can I try one? Oh. Wow, June, it sounds like you went through some hell there with that ammonia. There's got to be something creating. There's something making that ammonia. You have something in the filter. Sometimes a fish will go under the substrate, or maybe something is dead in there. Something's got to be creating the ammonia. Did you check your tap water? I mean, maybe the tap is maybe you're getting ammonia in the tap. There's something wrong in your tap. It's not just going to show up just magically from nowhere. There's got to be a source for that ammonia, and big water changes, conditioning the tank a couple times a week. I mean, it's a tough one, and sometimes just draining the tank is. Again, I've told this story before, and I'm sure you've heard it. I mean, KG Tropicals, right? He tried those discus tank, and they kept dying and dying and dying, and finally he just shut the whole tank down, sterilized it, and just gave up. He said, "There's something I don't know. There's something in here that I can't get my wits around. I can't get a grip on it," and so he gave up and just drained the whole thing out and ran boiling water in it. Gabriel's glass boxes. Thanks for that, Salient. New Flow 238. I have a 10-gallon tank sitting empty. I'm considering making it my first salt. Wow. Well, they have these mini coral reefs now that you can get. So why not? Have a lot of water movement. Put one of those little $10, a couple of those little $10 sun wave makers on there, so you have a lot of movement. And buy a few little fragments, buy some live rock and a few little frags, and away you go, right? And that could be fun. A little 10-gallon. Thomas Medina just picked up a couple of Winnamilleri Geophagus. You should give those a try too. I think I've seen pictures of those, Tom. They are beautiful. So many beautiful geos. A Red Empress R. Baglio. Red Empresses are beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I used to have back in California, I had a couple of what they call Super Red. Super Red. I guess those are ones that are just bred selectively to really bring out the red so that they're very vibrant. They're beautiful fish. Gorgeous. Especially under sunlight. And you turn the lights off and you just open a window, and under natural light, they would just like go off like they had a electrical plug-in or something. Luke Biba, are you talking to me, Luke? Because I'm not at Aquashella. Maybe you're talking to somebody else here. I wish I was at Aquashella. Well, GP, what I'll probably end up doing, you're talking about adding more tanks to the fish room. What I'm thinking of doing is, let me just shut down this banner here. Whoop. Ended up putting another one up. Here we go. There we go. You got the message. What I'm thinking of doing is removing the 8-gallon Horizon tank, which has been kind of a lukewarm project for me, and then maybe I have a 30-gallon rimless that I got from my friends over at Glass Cages over in Dixon, Tennessee. This is a glass cage tank, and this is a glass cage rimless tank, 3/4 inch glass. And of course, you know that the 210 is a glass cages. So I also have a glass cage 30-gallon. That might go where the Horizon tank is. And then maybe take the soil that I have in the Horizon, which is some of that fluval. It's specific for plants. So put that in there and then cover it with a layer of sand or gravel, and then make it something nice and planted. And if it ends up looking really pretty, move the community fish into it so that they're more in view and I can enjoy them more without having to sneak behind the 90-gallon to see them. but it's always fun. So between that project and upgrading the betta duplex, I'm going to be having some fun over the next few weeks. Of course, I'll take some video and I'll share it all with you. And I appreciate all of you encouraging, supporting, and giving me some suggestions on this. I take what you say into account. And Henry Bowman, what is a good glass cleaner for my aquarium and lid? A great glass cleaner for aquarium and lid? I'll show you. Here, look at the fish for a second. A brand new tank, a brand new glass tank, vinegar, barkeeper's helper, vinegar and a razor blade. You know, you've got some mineral buildup, right? Things like that. That's what you have to use on. Let's say you buy a used tank on Craigslist, and it's got some mineral buildup on it. Yeah, you put a little, barkeeper's helper, or maybe you put a little vinegar mix in there, some type of citrus cleaner. I just really make sure you rinse it out really, really well when you're done. But I've had great results with this. And you can use it on glass and acrylic. So it's safe, it's fish safe, ammonia free, aquarium safe. So, when you use Windex and you're really trying to make sure that you don't get any of the overspray into the tank, right? Because, well, this has no ammonia. It's actually fish safe. So, spray away, and it does a real good job. Fritz Glass and Acrylic Cleaner. I might have some at my Amazon store, so check it out there. All right, let's see here. I'll take a few more questions here before we end off. If I missed any super chats, please let me know. I think I got all of them, and I think Vibes is getting a mug. Unless somebody can come up with $25. Yeah, someone commented that's an expensive mug. Yeah, it's really all part of the game, supporting the channel, and the mug's a bonus, but just a game we play. And the truth is, it ends up costing me about $20 to. Kind of stupid on my part, but I end up close to 20 in shipping a mug out to somebody, but it's kind of fun. GP, I'm scraping algae out of my tank weekly. You might want to get some plecos, some of these guys. But I will tell you, it's a trade-off, because the pleco will help with the algae, but you'll have 25-inch long poops all over your aquarium. So it is a trade-off. Hey, it's Thanksgiving up in Canada. I didn't know that. Gus Fraser, Predator Haps. Happy Thanksgiving, Canada. Very, very cool. Didn't even know you folks had Thanksgiving up there. That's very cool. Cruising the chat. Gabriel's Glass Boxes. Your thoughts on a 35.8, 24-inch tall with one jack, one Venusus, two convicts, and 3 Cory cats. A video of this tank is available on my channel. Gabriel, I'll just be straight with you. I don't think that's going to end well. And I'll tell you why. When I first got going in African cichlids, I had some Corys in with some African cichlids. And it, again, is one of those things where it worked until it didn't work. I started to notice little pecks on the dorsal of the Corys. And one day I came down, the Corys were dead. So I'm not that worried about the Jack Dempseys. Jack Dempseys, at least the ones I've seen and have had, kind of cruise around and mind their own business. They don't allow fish to mess with them, but they're not. At least the ones I've had. I mean, they're not super aggressive. I'm more concerned about that Venusis. That Venusis is going to grow really fast, and will probably become a bit of a tear in there. So that's my 2 cents. Keep an eye on it. Have another tank set up. Keep a little extra seeded filter media that you can throw into a filter right away and get things rolling. That's my 2 cents on it. Joe, you know what I'm talking about. I've got that baby pleco tank 2 times a week, sometimes 3. I've got to take the pre-filter and the pre-filter sponge off of the little HOB on there and the inside filter and give it a rinse, and it comes out black. Black water runs out of it. It's twice a week. It's got 30 little, half-inch plecos in there. And man, oh man. Takoda Barnes, I recently bought a Lethrinops oculatus from James at the Cichlid Shack after seeing yours. Beautiful fish. It's a beautiful fish. And it, all the Lethrinops. I had a red top, gorgeous fish, right? Red cap, I think it's called. They're just a gorgeous type of fish. And I'm really, really shocked at how this one actually does in here, how he survives in here. Where are you, buddy? Where are you? Anyway, he's in here somewhere. I mean, on paper, right? If you study these different fish, you're not supposed to have a Lethrinops in this kind of tank. There he is. Really pretty fish. Really, I'm glad you're enjoying him. James at the Cichlid Shack does not disappoint. All right. Well, with all that being said, Vibes Aquatics, please send me again your mailing address, full name, mailing address. I know I have it somewhere, but I'm lazy. Send me your mailing address and the cup that you decided, the coffee mug that you'd like, and I will go ahead and get that out to you. I'd like to thank all of you for showing up, spending some of your Saturday with me, and I appreciate your ongoing support of the channel and encouragement. And if I didn't get to your comment today, I'm sorry. I can't get to all of them, but I try my best to get to as many as I can. So I will see you folks this coming Saturday. And until then, watch for a few videos, upgrade of the Betta Duplex, and a few other projects that I'm going to be getting going here in the fish room. So stay tuned for those. And thank you for your suggestions on what to do with these empty tanks. And we will go ahead and leave it at that. Uh-oh. Jerry takes the lead by 1 penny. Oh, my goodness. I love it. All right. Thank you, my friends. And if you do end up being the winner, be sure to send me your name and address. Who knows what's going to happen during the final video here. All right. Thank you, everybody. You are the best. Love you, folks. And I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.